Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. We had a great, pleasant, affable, amiable... Why am I crying? It's because I'm recording this right after my last episode. Still not 100% on the up and up, but a lot better. M3CEDMMH. Of course I'm gonna go here, because I'm a bad dude, and I'm not afraid to check this room out. I really feel like there's like a lion's law to be had here. If you have a bad rate of fire on an Eden start, you're more likely to have bad damage. I don't know what makes it come true, but it always seems like if we have like 9 rate of fire, we're gonna have at least 3.5 damage. If we have a double-digit rate of fire, particularly one that's over, hold up. Particularly one that's over like 11, we're gonna end up with like a damage stat that's in the 2s. I'm trapped. I'm trapped in a fecal prison of my own creation. It's like being in kindergarten all over again. One time, you want an embarrassing story about me? I do want to point out, oh crap. When I went to school, I was very young. I have a late-ish birthday. It's at the end of November. So I started junior kindergarten when I was 3 years old. Everybody always tells me, no, you didn't. I did. The numbers line up. I promise you that. You just gotta trust me. If you're one of those people, you got like a March birthday, and you're like, no, you were 4 or even 5. I just have to tell you, this is not the case. Please, my friend. I was 3. Anyway. I could read, which was cool, but I wasn't the best pooper. So my mom tells me, you know, I have no memory of this time in my life. My mom tells me one day she got a call from my kindergarten teacher. I'll try it. And my kindergarten teacher was like, can you come pick Ryan up from school today? He pooped on his shirt. It happens from time to time, okay? Like, not in my current life. I've never pooped on my shirt. I can't remember what happened to lead me to poop on my shirt. I'm imagining it was probably a situation where my shirt was long and it dipped into the toilet bowl somehow. You know, when you're in kindergarten, you're not necessarily wearing perfectly fitting clothes. Your brain's not always there. So yeah, 26 years ago, I pooped on my shirt. I don't mind telling an embarrassing story about myself at the worst of times. But an embarrassing story where I'm not even really myself. And I mean, as a kindergartner, you're not even really controlling your own actions. That's like a victimless story. Thank you for standing next to the fire. And do it again. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Now, if you could do me a favor and just continue to... Yeah. Because I can't damage you. I'm relying on the fire to do all the damage. I have no control over this subject matter. Beautiful. No. Yes. There we go. Alright, that basically sucked. We're not going to be able to do anything about this judgment. That's an extreme bummer. We'll hold dice shard, and like things look better because of our damage up, but still. I do wish I hadn't spent so much money on the last floor trying to get the judgment to pay out with a single HP upgrade. Okay, this is scary. But we actually are in an okay position, dare I suggest. What makes me say that? We have a key and a dice shard. That seems diceable. And then I was going to say we have access to the boss trap room, but that turned out to be useless. So for now, I'm just going to let it ride. I do see that tinted rock. That's kind of important. You've dodged me in the most inexplicable fashion possible. Luck stats not helping us out with consumables here, but life goes on. Just gotta play strong for this floor. We get a key. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Key on golden chest equals lots of money. A potential dice shardable room, but we'd probably rather use it to like roll farting baby into something a little bit more useful. Gotta talk Isaac for a little bit here. 1 HP early on is definitely the danger zone. So following this, we have some turdlings. Probably take like 8 hits each. Pardonnez-moi. That's right, I speak French. Deal with it. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Oh, thank you for the invincibility. Don't use your bomb. The bomb is there to give you access to the tinted rock. Real pain in the butt, not killing the flies in one hit. This was worth it. As long as we survive, and then the tinted rock gives us spirit hearts. Everything is forgiven. Don't give me a golden chest. I will be very upset. Thank you. That's a huge help. You know what? I'm dice sharding this bad boy. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Not very good. Now, I'm going to be a big idiot. But 2.5 HP is not a lot of HP. When we get over 3, we enter Deal with the Devil territory. So I figured we'd take him up on this offer right here. We got a pretty fly for our troubles. It's a little touchy. There's no question about that. But there's still, you know, a win exists on this run. It's just a little hidden for now. Damage stat is good enough. Well, with 1.5 HP, we got nothing to sweat. That's a joke. You know what? I didn't want to. I should have done it earlier if we were going to do it, but it is what it is. It's kind of a touchy floor here. Usually things don't end up being this spotty until a little bit later. Give me a key, let me go to the shop. Give me a key, let me go to the shop. It's a battery charge. No good. It's Ragman. Well, at least we have 2 bombs. Maybe we can... Oh, I kicked my own bomb away. Maybe we can start to build a winning run here. A winning culture. Can't kill the spiders before they spawn. Night's always darkest before the dawn. If this run doesn't get better, I might have to yawn. Definitely start working towards... just literally can't take it. Start working towards Spun. Dude, the last 2 runs... I'm not complaining about the last run. Let me hydrate here for a second. I'm not complaining about the last run, because it ended amazing. But we were in the same position after 2 floors. Like, our HP is just very, very dicey. Okay, that one, sadly, is on me. It's this 13 rate of fire, dude. It's like driving a smart car. You know, you're trying to get up to highway speeds. You're like, when I push the pedal to the metal, we're supposed to be going 110 kilometers an hour in the on-ramp. Instead, it's doing 85, and it makes it sound like, you know, your uncle after he's coughed too much at Thanksgiving dinner, and you're going, this ain't right. This is a Mercedes product. I apologize for any of you out there that drive smart cars. I've never driven one. They're all over Vancouver because they're part of this company that I believe is actually German in origin called Car to Go. Not Cardi B. She's a hip-hop artist and rapper from the Bronx. You can tell she's street because she just did a song with Maroon 5, which is one of the most gangsta, easy-listening adult contemporary bands in existence. Hey. Hey, you leave Adam Levine out of this, okay? He was on a Kanye West album. Anyway, I've never driven one myself, but they're all over Vancouver. I give them a bad rap because Car2Go is a micro car rental service where, you know, in this city you don't need to own a car. What you can do instead is be like, I'll pay you like, you know, so like $1 for every 10 minutes to drive these cars that are parked all over the city as like a little micro rental. But unfortunately, they tend to be driven by people who don't own cars, which means they're less likely to be good drivers. I'm just telling it like it is. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. You know, they're less experienced. This leads to some friction-based situations. So whenever you see a car in the blue and white livery of Car2Go, you always go, okay, give that guy a wide berth. He's doing his once-yearly Costco trip, and he's all hopped up on adrenaline. We should have 1.5 spirit hearts. So although I should not do this, I am going to do this. These guys are easy enough to kill. Let's kill them. Grab the consumable. Get the heck out of town.
The moon.
You wouldn't.
Pretty fly. Friends till the end.
You wouldn't. You're gonna force me to leave through the curse path? Highly rude. Very, extremely rude, if I may say so. It's a very strange run. Normally at this point, we'd be sorted in one or more categories. We're not in that position yet. I made the point, while we're talking about modes of transportation, one of my favorite discussion topics, I saw an old Asian gentleman at the movie theater yesterday using one of those hoverboards from like the year 2014. I erroneously had thought, I'd made two assumptions about the hoverboard situation, okay? One assumption was that it was primarily a young person's obsession. The other one is that, you know, that trend died in the year 2014. It's like a fidget spinner for your feet. But no, here was an older Asian gentleman inside, which is just like, I guess his version of like a midlife crisis, because it's already like uncouth. And to make things a little bit even more hilarious, he was with his son, and his son had a hoverboard, you know, like, I know it's not literally a hoverboard, but the scooter things. And the father was riding the hoverboard, but the son was just like kind of kicking his ahead. Like, you know that the dad was like, let's go hoverboard riding, and the son was like, Dad, Mom said you're not allowed to do that anymore. It's bad for your back. I don't even like the hoverboard anymore. It's so 2014. Now I'm running through in my head, because whenever I say something like that that's judgmental, I always like to play my own devil's advocate and be like, what if he was disabled and he needed that hoverboard to get around? And I was just thinking to myself, if only they invented an alternative form of transportation for those who have difficulty or pain walking. It sure is heck ain't called a hoverboard, now that I think about it. I get weirded out. Whenever I see like if I see a young person, sure, why not? Between the ages of, let's say, like 12 and even like 25. In that 12-year period, if I see a young person behaving badly, I do kind of shake my fist and I go, you kids. But I also get it. You know, that's the time in your life you're most likely to take liberties, and socially you're trying to figure out where you stand. When I see like a middle-aged person behaving badly in public, I just go, oh, that's so sad. It's like like one of the Humane Society commercials with Sarah McLachlan's I Will Remember You. It's like it brings a tear to my eye. I'm like, what were you doing between the ages of 12 and 25? Were you two button up? And now in your 40s, you gotta be like, we're gonna break the rules. Because that's just, it's not a good look when I had a, dude, here's a real story for you. This is one with some real repercussions, okay? When I taught in Korea, I worked with a guy who was an I don't think he was ex-Mormon, but he was like devoutly religious and had lived in the United States. So he had like graduated from high school, went in the military, served in the military for like 4 or 5 years, then went to like Bible college. Unless you think this is a tirade against religion, you remember who you're watching? I don't really do that. Who do you think I am, Ricky Gervais? That's an insult. He got married, when I met him he was like 38. He got married apparently when he was like 21. Had only, experienced intimacy, ooh God, with that one woman throughout his life. And then he had just recently gone through a divorce. So he was like, well, what am I gonna do now? He got super jacked, which is admirable, but to the point where he was like, hey, what do you guys think about like the idea of me buying steroids to get even more jacked? And we were like, oh, you want to buy like an illegal drug in a country that you don't even speak the language of? That seems like a really smart idea if you want to get yourself maybe thrown in prison for like 15 years. And he was like, yeah, isn't that cool? And we were like, no, that's not cool. You're like my dad's age. What would be cool is if you had like an understanding of your role in society at that age, and maybe also like, started building some equity or something like that. But, so basically he was like, he didn't have that period in his life where, like, in college, you kind of go crazy and you test the limits of, you know, bad behavior and stuff like that. Some people it's high school, some people it's college, some people it's fresh out of college, and for some unfortunate souls, that time just gets deferred until they're middle-aged, and it leads to, like, a sad situation. There were times, and I'm not proud of this guy was drunk at work. It wasn't me, but at the same time, you know, I wasn't gonna narc on him because he might have killed me, but he'd be like, hey, take a sniff of my coffee mug. And I'd sniff his coffee mug, and I'd be like, yeah, that's rum. And he'd be like, isn't that cool? And I was like, nah, man, you're teaching children. That's extremely not cool. In fact, that might be like the least cool thing I can think of. You know, there's a time and a place for adult beverages. I don't think that time and place is when you're like managing the lives, safety, and, you know, nurturing the education of the nation's youth. You know what bums me out even more? He was a better teacher than I am. By far. Even under the influence. You think I just misplaced that bomb? So yeah, anyway. That's my story about that guy. That's why, when I see young people behaving badly, I don't assume that they're gonna grow into jerks. When I see young people behaving well, I don't assume that they're gonna grow into model citizens. It probably does happen that way a lot of the time. There's also that, I really think, you know, I don't know if a midlife crisis is a real thing. Or at least I assume it's a real thing. But I don't know if I can relate to it yet. But I definitely think, you know, it's good to have some years where in a relatively risk-free environment, you can sort of behave badly. Not like, you know, necessarily criminally, but, you know, you can be irresponsible and maybe make decisions that are bad decisions, but, you know, lead to you learning a valuable lesson that you carry with you into adult life. If you don't have that, I worry. That's why, like, you know, I wasn't really poorly behaved in college, but I had those... Oh, we already fought the boss. What am I doing here? I had those moments. You know, I've been to a few chemistry labs hungover in my life, absolutely. Read. I'm hip, I'm with it. Taka 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 taka. I may or may not have stolen a glass or two from a pub. It's weird, because, like, you know, back in the day, that felt like a rite of passage. Now when I admit it, it feels like, oh, something's gone terribly wrong. Is there a statute of limitations on this? But I think, you know, pushing those bounds, while simultaneously contributing to the breakage of a business, and now it feels like the greatest affront I could ever imagine, simultaneously, it is kind of like, it's what you do at that age group. But if, for some people, at least, if you don't get that wild spirit out, I think when you're younger, it can lead to you getting it out when you're older, which is not great. Now, don't use that as an excuse to behave badly. Because, you know, people make fun of me now. This is why, on the NLSS, people are like, what do you want to do, NL? And I'm like, I want to quietly read a book and improve my knowledge. And they're like, you don't like fun. I had too much fun. Between the years of, like, 2006 to 2012. So now, it's not that I don't like fun. It's just I've gotten, you know, the thrill-seeking behavior to any degree out of my system. And I got it out at an appropriate time. I think that's better than being like, you know, you don't want to be Kirk Van Houten. You know, you have your child Milhouse, and then you separate from your wife, and I sleep in a bed that looks like a race car. Do you sleep in a bed that looks like a race car? I'm just saying, there's a time and a place. What's that teacher doing now, by the way? I don't know. He probably runs an orphanage or something. He's actually, like, I think he's gotten over it, and he's kind of like a good guy now, but there was a period in his life where things were, like, a little spotty. I wish him the best, but also, like, I mean, people are complicated, right? I wish him the best. Simultaneously, he definitely should not have behaved the way he behaved. I mean, come on, man. We were getting paid $1,800 a month. Take it seriously. People are going to take that joke in two different ways. Some people are going to be like, $1,800 a month, yikes. Some people are going to be like, $1,800 a month, that's a good job. Well, yes and no. What are you? Are you a counter baby? Or are you big zeros as eyeballs, baby. I haven't decided yet. By the way, boss rush, no chance. But this run is now, it's popping. We got a great chance of victory. It is not a counter, baby. It is eyeball, baby. Qu'est-ce que c'est? So yeah, again, you know, if you never find that urge within yourself to push the limits, by all means, don't do so. I think there's virtue in behaving well. You can behave well without depriving yourself, absolutely. You can probably behave badly without it having incredible consequences for other people as well. So, you know, both of those are cool in my book. But I think you gotta get out your kid nature. Like, you can always stay young at heart, okay? You can be Scott Lang. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're like 45 and your 16-year-old son is like, hey, Dad, want to rob a liquor store? And you're like, yeah. That's where you have failed as a parent. You have to be the dad who's like, let's not rob the liquor store. Instead, let's just invent a Bitcoin miner that gets installed as malware. You're way less likely to get caught. And if you think that I have done that, you're doing me a great deal of flattery. I don't have those kind of skills. I'm still Googling, like, in JavaScript, is it .size, .count, or .length? Little joke for my programmer friends out there. Hello, Tomo. Hello, my Tomo buddy. Depths 2. See, this is where I wish I could sing. Depths 2. La ba dee da dee dee. I don't remember Damon Albarn coughing as much during that song, but that's okay. Oh, an anecdote-rich Isaac episode. It's always nice when it happens. You know, I can't create it. All I can do is be a vessel for it to funnel through. Beautiful. Dude, this is way more Eternal Hearts than you would expect to normally get. We're like Blanche Dubois in the last 2 Isaac runs. We're only surviving thanks to the kindness of strangers, but also the kindness of Spirit Hearts. Now, the one thing I will say, I would just be over the moon if you would allow me to figure out a way to use compost effectively. I'm still, like, I know in my head I have, like, flashes of memory of having used this item to some good degree in the past. And I don't remember how we made it happen. Maybe we came across a room that had, like, 15 red hearts, and that's how we started things. Maybe we had, Eye of Greed, Head of the Keeper. These make sense. I like compost, but it's situational. But in this time, the situation doesn't depend on the parameters of the run. It depends on the parameters of your mind. Nah. Obviously, like, if we had Guppy, that would help out a ton as well. I wish I had more anecdotes, honestly. I got some, you know, you want some rapid-fire anecdotes? I'll hook you up with some. Kate and I went out and we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp last night. What did I think of it? To be honest with you, I think it's the weakest Marvel movie I've seen in a while. I still liked it. I would rate it 1 shiny, fresh red tomato. On Twitter, I gave it a 6.5 out of 10, and I stand by that. I like the original Ant-Man a little bit more. And it's particularly after Infinity War, Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Civil War. You know, I thought it was a cut. Spider-Man Homecoming, I thought it was a cut below. So there's the first anecdote. Second anecdote, before seeing the movie, we went out to a restaurant, and I saw the most Canadian piece of graffiti in the bathroom stall that I've ever seen in my entire life. You know, usually it says, like, for a good time, call blah, 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 and it's your friend's number. Or an enemy's number, I suppose. And if they were a friend prior, they might be an enemy now after you write that. This one just said, smug staff. Like it was a prehistoric Yelp review of the establishment in which I was already in. And I thought that was great. Now, I'm pretty sure it was probably written by someone living a vagabond lifestyle, because it's kind of in that area of town. But I pictured like an old English man in a suit, where he's like, I'll have the pad prick. And the server was like, oh, will you now? And he was like, excuse me, I have to use the restroom. And with a pocket knife, he carved out like, smug staff. By the way, was the staff smug? No, I didn't think so, like, at all, really. I thought they were relatively affable. But maybe it was a different situation, or maybe that man was in a very terrible mood, you know? There's no way to tell. Next anecdote. Now we're getting into, like, real, like, minor territory, okay? Like, there's a young man behind us at the movie theater. He laughed so loud at everything during Ant-Man, I couldn't even hear what the jokes were. It would be like Michael Pena would be on the screen. He's a funny guy. I don't disagree. Every time he showed up on the screen, this guy would just lose his mind laughing. Couldn't hear the movie. But I don't want to be the guy. And I know you're going to say this is like social anxiety. It's not really like that. I don't want to be a net joy sponge. I don't want to suck joy out of the world. This man was having such a good time, I wasn't really annoyed. Quite the opposite. Rather, I was renewed with a great faith in humanity's ability to have fun in these troubled times. And I said, you know what, laughing guy? Keep laughing. He did whistle at the screen many times, which was very annoying, but I actually didn't see myself because I'm the smallest of my friends. But, I mean, we missed Sister Maggie. Who cares? I was going to take Sister Maggie, then Eye of Belial, of course. Not a big problem. I'm willing to give it a shot. This is very scary, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Okay. Maybe cool it on taking dumb damage now. Those are my anecdotes. That's the end of it. And that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. No, Oh, man. I'm still like, I'm just so jazzed to feel better. Even if I don't fully sound better yet, you gotta trust me that, like, my internal barometer for how I'm feeling is 100 times higher than it was yesterday. As I've gotten older, and I mean, this makes sense, the duration of any sickness that I have has gone way up. I remember, like, if you were in 6th grade and a kid was out of school for a week, you're like, there's only a couple of options. They're like, they have the Ebola virus. That's the only explanation for why someone between the ages of 11 and 13 would be sick for a week. It's Ebola. You know, usually you'd be like, I have a cold. And then the next day, you take the day off from school. And then one day later, you go back to school and you're like, let's run 2 miles. That's what it was like back then. Now when I get sick, I don't get, like, violently ill, but I have to wait, like, at least 4 or 5 days for the signal that things are even on the up and up. Like, I just deal 4 or 5 days with, like, a level of kind of, like, bleh. And then I get better after that. It's disheartening. That's why I'm, like, going off so much on, like, can we just invent a cure to the common cold? I know it's not that easy, but the thing is, I'm smart enough to know it's not that easy, but also not smart enough to know why it's not that easy. We have, like, 100,000 brands of medication that do one of two things. Help preserve some degree of hair growth on your head as it's already going, or help you get a big old erection. For the common cold, what do we have? Medicine that existed in, like, the year 1800, made of tree sap and lichens. I don't understand, like, I don't want to be a conspiracy guy. I really don't believe, like, I believe that big pharmaceutical companies behave badly. Like, if you've ever read the story of Valiant Pharmaceuticals, and it pains me to admit that they're a Canadian corporation, but the story of Valiant Pharmaceuticals is extremely sketchy. Basically, they were a pharmaceutical company, and they decided, what's the best business model? You might think researching and manufacturing drugs that can help, you know, reduce people's discomfort, save their lives even. Nah, that's not what they did. Instead, they invested almost none of their revenue into research, and they bought companies that researched medicine and came out with medicines, and then they jacked up the price to, like, extraordinary degrees. That being said, even though that's real, I don't want to be cynical and conspiratorial. I don't believe that there's like a cure for cancer and GlaxoSmithKline won't let it be out because there's more money in treating it than there is in actually, or treating the symptoms or whatever than there is in curing it. Because I think it's like flat Earth, right? Where if you ever, by the way, if you're a flat earther and like you're gonna be offended by what I'm saying, I know that there's so few of you out there, but like, just come on, okay? Meet me in the middle here. I'm not mad at you, I'm just trying to save you from this weird cult of dispersonality. Anyway, the point is, the number of people that would have to lie in order for, like, you know, that, let me put it this way, it's like, with flat Earth, you're assuming that, like, literally everybody that has ever been into outer space, including the entire workforce of NASA, who have not all obviously been to outer space, but they're all in on the conspiracy, requires literally none of them to have ever broken their silence. It's absurd. It's the same with, like, landing on the moon. If the moon had been a filmed event, you just have to think by now that somebody would have come forward that actually was, like, big in the project, and it would be like, yeah, it was all filmed. And maybe they have, but yeah, I feel like whenever that happens, and maybe this is where the conspiracy theorists get a little bit more fodder. It's always like, by the way, he was suffering from terrible mental debilitating diseases at the time, so, and you're like, yeah, see, that's what happens when you believe the establishment media. But I mean, like, I don't know, I feel like I live in the real world. I feel connected to reality. Maybe that's just what they want you to think, man. I do think, you know, if you were gonna do a conspiracy, it was way easier to do it, you know, like 100 years ago than it is now. But now, like, I'm not saying we live in a world where everything is as it appears. I'm just saying the dissemination of information is so fast now, it makes it harder to fake something. Except with technology, where it's much easier. But I don't know where I'm spinning my wheels here. I'm just saying, if there were a cure for cancer, I would have to imagine one of the scientists who worked on it, after the executive decision came down that was like, we're gonna bury this, they would be like, I'm gonna go talk to the media. And after they did, we would start to ask some questions. It's like the Volkswagen scandal. You know, we need a whistleblower, break the whole thing wide open. That's why I have a problem with conspiracy theories, for the most part. That's why I like asking the question on the NLSS from time to time, is like, what conspiracy theory are you closest to believing? You can learn a lot about somebody by figuring out which belief that they harbor is kind of like built on a throne of lies. I think, at least. I don't know which. I guess, like, I'm not into conspiracy theories for the most part. I really wanted that HP. We should have waited. In my head, I'm like, maybe the JFK assassination, but only because it's been so enduring. Area 51, I don't know, I'm not convinced. As soon as something gets made into a television show like Roswell, I'm kind of like, I don't buy it. I know there's been all that alien news recently. Never thought I'd say that. I don't know. I'm a sheeple, basically. I'm the guy who's like, you know, suited up, suit and tie, watching, eating like a slice of toast, drinking a glass of orange juice, taking my kids to school, and the news broadcast is like, this thing happened, and I'm like, heck yeah, it did. It happened exactly like that. I'm a cog in the machine, and I'm proud of it. I'm Michael Shannon in The Shape of Water. Well, not really. He was a pretty bad dude, but I don't know where I'm going with this, is the other point that I'm trying to make. Excuse me? It was one of our own tiers. I've been betrayed by my own tier. We actually still could die, and it's mostly due to sloppy play, basically as of right now. Oh, a golden chest doesn't get converted, apparently. My mistake. It actually literally is my mistake, but if you say my mistake in a sarcastic voice, people, you know, from a body language and, you know, non-verbal cue will be like, oh, game really screwed him on that one. This is dangerous. That's what I mean. I think we're gonna die. Thank God that guy bit it. It gives us a chance. I see the demon heart. I was too small to get to it as quickly as I wanted. I couldn't tell where I was. You wouldn't. You just gotta keep moving. It's the only thing that matters here is just keep moving. It's all about the brimstone. If you can avoid the brimstone shot, you're probably fine. Dude, we deserve to win after this, by the way. I was moving. You can't see me because I'm the smallest man in the world right now, but I promise you I was moving. Okay, we have Fire Mine, which is highly, highly dangerous. So I'm thinking you just play it cool, use like Blue Baby's only friend to sort you out. It's exactly what we wanted. Okay. Please, God, some demon hearts. I beg. I beg you, sir. Oh, I'll accept it. I think it might give us one hit of survivability. We're not flying, I have to remind myself. Just because we're small and very fast does not mean we're flying. Okay. We should shoot, but I kind of appreciate the set it and forget it approach that we can take here. All we have to do is focus on dodging, let Blue Baby's only friend do most of the work. Well, it's a much more comfortable... Never mind. It was temporarily a much more comfortable finish than I expected. Then things got highly frightening, and I'm leaving. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. See you next time.